Niccolò Machiavelli once understood a truth that terrifies ordinary men. People do not lose because they are weak, they lose because they are predictable. The world is not ruled by the strongest, nor by the smartest. It is ruled by those who understand the game beneath the game. Every conversation, every negotiation, every conflict is a silent battlefield of hidden incentives, and most people walk into these battles completely exposed. They speak too soon, trust too quickly, react emotionally, reveal their intentions before the game has even begun. But there is one move, a deceptively simple principle from game theory that changes everything. A move so effective that once you understand it, you will begin to see manipulation, weakness, and human behavior with terrifying clarity. And the frightening part, almost nobody uses it, because the majority of people are addicted to immediate gratification, emotional honesty, and the desperate need to be understood. Tonight you will learn why that makes them easy to control. And more importantly, how to ensure you are never one of them again. The power of controlled predictability. The greatest illusion in human interaction is the belief that power belongs to the loudest person in the room. It does not. Power belongs to the individual who can be studied, but never fully understood. Most people destroy themselves because they cannot resist the urge to reveal who they are. The moment they feel excitement, they speak. The moment they feel anger, they react. The moment they develop ambition, they announce it to the world as if visibility itself were strength. But in every strategic game, whether politics, business, or war, transparency is often suicide. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. A prince who exposes every intention becomes vulnerable to anticipation. Once your enemies can predict your emotions, your desires, and your next move, they no longer fear you. They calculate why. And a man who can be calculated can be controlled. This is where controlled predictability becomes dangerous. You allow people to believe they understand you. You give them patterns. You create habits they can recognize. Calmness, consistency, restraint. You become readable on the surface. But beneath that surface, your true intentions remain hidden. The masses confuse honesty with strategy. They think authenticity means exposing every thought. But the strategic mind understands that information is currency. Every unnecessary revelation is a payment made to your opponents. Observe powerful individuals carefully. They rarely over-explain themselves. They rarely rush to defend their image. They rarely reveal the full extent of their plans before the moment arrives. Because uncertainty creates psychological pressure. Humans are uncomfortable when they cannot fully predict someone. It forces them into hesitation. And hesitation is where control shifts. In game theory, the player who becomes impossible to accurately model gains an enormous advantage. When your opponent cannot determine whether you will cooperate, retaliate, withdraw, or escalate, they begin making defensive decisions out of fear rather than confidence, and fear changes behavior faster than force ever could. This is why silence unsettles people. This is why calm individuals dominate emotional environments. And this is why the person who appears simple while hiding complexity underneath often outmaneuvers everyone around them. Why the majority always loses. The majority does not lose because they lack intelligence. They lose because they are ruled by reaction. Watch people closely and you will notice a terrifying pattern. Most human beings never truly think. They respond. Someone insults them, they explode. Someone praises them, they surrender loyalty. A crisis appears, they panic. An opportunity appears, they rush blindly toward it without questioning who created it and why. This is the weakness that has controlled civilizations for centuries. The masses are emotional creatures pretending to be rational, and those who understand this become dangerous. Machiavelli knew that crowds are easy to manipulate because they are addicted to immediate emotional relief. They would rather feel correct in the moment than secure victory in the future. They sacrifice long-term power for temporary satisfaction every single day. That is why most people reveal anger instantly instead of strategically. Why do they seek revenge too early? Why they speak when silence would have increased their leverage? Why do they chase attention instead of influence? The average person lives move to move, moment to moment, emotion to emotion. They never step outside the game long enough to study the entire board. But the strategic mind operates differently. It understands that every action creates consequences several moves ahead. In game theory, weak players focus on the immediate outcome. Strong players focus on position, setting. They are willing to lose small battles to gain irreversible advantages later. This is what separates rulers from followers. Followers react to events. Rulers shape them. And the most dangerous individual in any room is not the loudest or most aggressive person. It is the calm observer who understands human impulses better than the people experiencing them. Because once you can predict emotional behavior, manipulation becomes effortless. You begin noticing how easily people expose themselves under pressure. Fear makes them impatient. Ego makes them careless. Desire makes them blind. And the majority never escapes this cycle because society rewards impulsive behavior. Social media rewards outrage. Modern culture rewards speed. People are taught to answer immediately, decide immediately, react immediately. Almost nobody is trained to pause, to calculate, to think 3 consequences ahead before speaking, which is precisely why the majority remains predictable enough to control. Manipulating expectations. Human beings are easier to control than they would ever admit, not because they are foolish, but because they desperately need certainty. People feel safe when they believe they understand someone. The moment they think they can predict your behavior, they lower their guard. They stop observing carefully. They become comfortable, and comfort is where manipulation begins. This is why the most strategic individuals never reveal their full nature at once. Machiavelli understood that perception is often more powerful than reality itself. A ruler did not need to be virtuous. He only needed to appear virtuous long enough for others to trust him. Because once expectations are established, people begin completing the illusion with their own imagination. And that is where real power hides. The average person is trapped by consistency. They behave exactly as others expect them to behave. If they are kind, they are always kind. If they are emotional, they are always emotional. If they are aggressive, they are predictably aggressive. Soon, everyone around them learns the pattern. And once the pattern is understood, their behavior becomes exploitable. But the strategic mind understands something different. You do not break expectations randomly. That creates chaos. You shape expectations carefully, then violate them at the exact moment it benefits you most. Sometimes you appear weaker than you are so others become careless. Sometimes you appear uninterested so people chase your approval. Sometimes you remain silent long enough that others begin revealing information just to fill the discomfort. Humans cannot tolerate uncertainty for long. They rush to explain it. They expose themselves trying to regain emotional control. And this is why calculated unpredictability becomes such a devastating weapon. In game theory, the player who controls expectations controls decision-making itself. If your opponent believes you will always forgive, they will disrespect. To you, if they believe you will always attack emotionally, they will prepare defenses against emotion. But when your responses cannot be perfectly anticipated, hesitation enters their mind, and hesitation weakens confidence. You begin to notice this everywhere. In negotiations, in relationships, in politics. The individual who controls perception often controls the outcome before the conflict even begins, because most battles are not won through force. They are won inside the mind of the other player long before the first move is ever made. Silence as a strategic weapon. Silence terrifies people more than anger ever will, because anger gives information away. Silence gives nothing. Most individuals cannot survive a few seconds of silence without exposing themselves. The moment tension enters a conversation, they rush to explain, defend, justify, or emotionally react. They believe every attack requires an answer. Every accusation demands a response. Every insult must be challenged immediately. And this is precisely why they surrender power so easily. Machiavelli understood that restraint creates authority. A ruler who reacts emotionally to every criticism appears weak, because emotional reactions reveal vulnerability. The more desperately someone tries to control how others perceive them, the more control they actually surrender. But silence changes the balance entirely. Silence forces the other person to sit alone with uncertainty. Did they offend you? Are you planning something? Do you know something they do not? Humans hate unanswered questions. The mind begins creating possibilities on its own, and often those imagined possibilities become more frightening than reality itself. This is why calm individuals dominate chaotic environments. While everyone else is driven by emotion, the silent observer gathers information. They study weaknesses. They watch who loses composure first. Because in every conflict, the person who becomes emotional first usually loses strategy. See clarity first. Silence is not passivity. It is controlled by pressure. In game theory, revealing your intentions too early reduces your advantage. The less information you provide, the harder you become to predict. And unpredictability forces caution in everyone around you. Notice how powerful negotiators operate. They are rarely the people speaking endlessly. They allow silence to stretch across the room because they understand something most people never learn. Silence creates discomfort, and uncomfortable people reveal themselves. They begin filling the void with explanations, compromises, nervous laughter, unnecessary details, and emotional honesty. Piece by piece, they expose their position simply because they cannot tolerate stillness. Meanwhile, the strategic individual remains composed, not because they lack emotion, but because they understand that emotional control is a form of dominance. The ability to remain calm while others lose discipline creates psychological superiority without a single threat being spoken aloud. Winning without open conflict. Most people misunderstand power. They imagine dominance as something loud, aggressive, visible. They think victory belongs to the person who shouts the hardest, threatens the most, or destroys opponents publicly. But truly powerful individuals avoid unnecessary conflict whenever possible. Because open conflict is expensive. It drains energy, creates resistance, and exposes intentions. Machiavelli understood that the greatest rulers were not those constantly fighting wars. They were the ones who positioned themselves so carefully that resistance became useless before the battle even began. That is the ultimate form of strategic superiority, to win without appearing to fight at all. The majority of people operate emotionally. The moment they feel disrespected, they seek confrontation. They need others to witness their anger because their pride depends on visible retaliation. But strategic individuals think differently, fervently. They ask one question before every action. What outcome actually benefits me? And often, emotional confrontation benefits nothing. In game theory, direct conflict can weaken both players. Even if you win publicly, you may lose resources, alliances, opportunities, or long-term positioning. This is why intelligent players seek leverage instead of chaos. Leverage is invisible power. It is the ability to influence outcomes without force. A calm reputation can become leverage. Information can become leverage. Patience can become leverage. Even absence can become leverage. Because when people become emotionally dependent on your reactions, withdrawing attention alone can destabilize them. This is why the most dangerous players rarely chase revenge openly. They understand timing. They understand positioning. They allow opponents to underestimate them, overextend themselves, and expose weaknesses naturally. Then, when the moment arrives, the outcome feels almost effortless. Observe. How do masters of strategy behave? They do not waste energy proving themselves in every argument. They do not interrupt every insult. They do not desperately seek validation from crowds. Because they understand that public emotional battles often distract people from the real objective. Control over the final outcome. And the final outcome is all that matters. The strategic mind is always calculating beyond the present moment. While others become trapped in ego battles,